Grace and peace, family. I hope you're feeling blessed this morning. Alright, so we're going to get right into this. So this morning, I was having a conversation with the father, and the conversation veered into the tactics the enemy uses to really keep people stuck and complacent in the world. And it specifically veered into the conversation as to how he uses fear even when we're really young, and uses our parents to instill fear within us as a tool. And we are unknowingly being used by the enemy to do so, and how it has terrible effects on your child as they grow. So we kind of got into this one area when we were discussing the differences between two types of children. Now, there are children who are very adventurous, who, you take them to the park, they are doing backflips, they want to try everything new, they want to go down the slide upside down if they can, because they want to try everything. And it comes from being nurtured and cultivated in a mindset that excitement is a good thing, that fear is a good thing. Only because you're able to conquer something new when you realize that fear is just the mind's way of trying to keep you safe. Doesn't mean don't go. It just means there's some things that could happen here that aren't going to be the best. And that's okay, but it shouldn't stop you. As we know, children are the most fearless creatures in the world. Human children. And it's mainly because in those formative years, that first year of life, they have to go through so many experiences to get to the point of being self-sufficient. Just simply learning how to walk is a hardship. You're going to fall. Standing up, you're going to fall. Learning, you're going to fall. There's a lot that's going to happen when you're a kid. But you have to understand that that's a part of the learning process. If you don't cultivate that and you teach your child a whole bunch of what ifs, and you attempt to keep them safe to the point that you don't allow them to understand that fear needs to be conquered, that shows up later on in life. It becomes a trauma. I'll give you an example. So just like the child who you go to the park and he wants to experience everything. Let's say you have a child, and when you go to the park, because you've had bad experiences when you went to the park, when you were a kid, if you fell and you chipped a tooth, or you skinned your knee really bad, you remember that. Now you take your daughter to the park, and when she's playing, you're telling her all the reasons why she shouldn't do certain things in the park. Oh, don't run, you may hurt yourself. Oh, don't climb up so high, you could fall. Now, you may think that you're keeping your child safe. You want to protect them as much as you can, but in all actuality, that protection that you're trying to instill right now is going to show up later on as a limitation. Because she starts to believe, oh my gosh, I will fall. Or if she does fall and gets that skin knee, now you've solidified the fear within her. Oh, falling causes pain, which is why I shouldn't do these things. Which is why that fear is real. And it actually is not. So she goes up, and she now has all of these reasons in her toolbox as to why she shouldn't do things that trigger fear. And so she limits herself. She stops herself from doing things that she's interested in, that she wants to try, nuances, because she's equipped herself with fear, and they're all based on what ifs. Not what's the best that could happen, but what's the worst that could happen. And we don't realize that that's exactly how the enemy has designed it, to stop you dead in your tracks. Now, the little boy from the original example, he goes on trying new things, being fearless in different ways, because he's learning through those experiences that as he conquers them, that when they do go his way, there's a lot waiting for him on the other side. So it shows how that one tactic of the enemy, especially when you indoctrinate it when they're very young, how it can take over the mind and develop into a whole tree from a little seed. I just got to download. I'm not sure if, whoever's watching me has seen the documentary on the girl Gypsy Rose. This is a very sad documentary, but I suggest you watch it because it really shows you how, we as parents have so much power over the lives of our children, and when you wield it in an irresponsible manner, you do so much damage. So Gypsy lived with her mother. I'm not sure where her father is. It's a download, so I didn't get a chance to research it. I believe the father left the mother when Gypsy was a little baby. When he did that, when he left, it scarred the mother very deeply. She was abandoned. She was deserted. And it hurt her. What she did in turn was use fear as a tactic to keep her daughter from developing. She developed a condition known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which is when you go ahead and you make someone else sick so that you can care for them. This is a terrible thing to do to someone, because Gypsy lost out on so much of her life because her mother was keeping her sick for years. I mean, all the way through until she was almost an adult. Her mother would tell her that she had illnesses that she didn't have. She was literally giving her medication to keep her from being able to develop properly. I believe at one point she was giving her a sedative that was for dogs, so that it could prevent her from moving, and it had her wheelchair bound so that she did not know she could walk at one point. She was in a wheelchair for most of her life, not knowing that if her mother stopped giving her that medication, she could walk. She wasn't really sick. And all of this was being done because the mother did not want Gypsy to leave her. She had an embedded fear of abandonment that she was now using to instill fear in her daughter. She even instilled fear of the world. Gypsy had no friends. She was completely isolated. They had no family. So all she had was her mother, the person who was doing the worst to you. And it led to crazy events because, of course, Gypsy, we had the boom of the internet. Gypsy, at one point, realizes that she's not sick. She stopped taking the medication her mother was giving her to see what would happen. And she started getting better. At one point, she realizes she can walk, and she realizes that she starts looking up the medication, the names of the medications, and she realizes what's being done to her. And now her mom is her own personal villain. It leads to her offing her own mother to find a sense of freedom so she could live. And it's terrible because she planned it. So she ended up going to jail for doing this to her mother. So she lost out on the whole beginning stages of her life, and then loses out on the middle stages of her life, going to jail for trying to find the freedom. So it shows how fear is just a terrible tactic and how it is just so weaponized nowadays. Instead of us looking at fear as something that, yes, it shows you that something could go wrong. It is your body's way of signaling, do we need protection? And we need that. We definitely do need that. You don't want to walk into a lion's den just playing with lions, not realizing they eat you. But we also need to know that this is not supposed to be a natural limitation. When we look at fear, we should look at it with the lens of how we can conquer. One of the things I remember very relevant is as a kid, I've always had like this fear of water. And I mean, like, of course, not like taking a shower. I'm talking the fear of large bodies of water. And it was because I went through experiences that just were not favorable. I've almost drowned in a pool at least 3 times with a lifeguard on duty and adults around. And the worst part about it is I ended up saving myself every time. Of course, I'm going to say the Lord saved me. But I'm saying the people didn't save me. But 3 times while I was under the supervision of adults. So I developed the fear of the water because it was just, in this situation, it doesn't seem to go well. But I also knew that this wasn't a fear that I wanted to give my children. It was a fear based on my experiences. So I didn't want to tell my children, oh no, be careful when you go to the pool. Don't do this, don't do that. I need you to learn how to swim. I needed you to not feel limited when it came to getting in the water. Just because I had a fear that I had developed, I didn't want my fear to now become so deeply rooted within me that it is now a trauma I'm giving to my children. So I had to really master not allowing them to feel like this fear was something that they deserved to have as well. And made sure that they learned how to swim as well so that they could be able to have the thing that I couldn't. It wasn't that I didn't like water. It was that I had experiences that made me untrusting of water. Now, when I go to the pool, to the beach, of course, there's now systems in place. But for a long time, I didn't go to those places because fear made me think it was the place that was the problem. It was the view of the place. It was the experiences that needed to be conquered. Sorry, guys. My daughter's sleeping on the couch. So when it really came down to understanding that I needed to master how I felt in order to help make sure that I didn't allow this to bleed onto someone else, I feel like that goes hand in hand with this because as parents, we have a responsibility to our children. Their experiences need to be guided. And there's so many of them that they have to go through, especially when they're really young. So making sure that we equip them with the right types of tools in the right doses is important. Because they should know to be careful and to be safe, but not to be worried. The Lord does not give us a spirit of timidity. So you're able to do all the things that you want to do. You just have to master how to do it. It's not that you can't run because you may fall. It's you need to learn how to run in proper form so you do it better. It's not that you can't learn how to do a backflip. You just need some help, some assistance so that you can do it in a way that you don't hurt yourself. So let's learn how to equip our babies with the tools that are going to be necessary. And instead of allowing fear to take over and conquer us, we begin to really truly conquer fear. I'm going to leave this right here. If this is your first time visiting, go ahead, hit that subscribe button so you can get more of this content. If you are returning, hey family, how you doing? Like it, share it, do what you gotta do. Love and light, and peace.